Hello, educator friends. Welcome back to the School Life series. We're on episode 3, and I have a very special guest here today. So, first of all, if you're new to us and this is your first time listening, thank you. Welcome in. We're really excited. This is a web series that is for educators for your school life. We just want to provide you with a resource that you can have. Like we've said, we're going to bring in incredible names all across the country who are really experts in education on various topics. So today we have an author, we have an educator, a wife, a mother, a creator of some pretty incredible content for the education world. Naomi O'Brien, thank you for coming on today. I
Yeah,
really
thank you for having me. I'm excited
I
to be
really
here.
appreciate it. So, I gave you a little bit of introduction there, but that was just like skimming the top. So, why don't you just start off by telling us about you, who you are, and maybe a little bit about your educational journey as well?
Yeah, I will. And I'm so excited to be here. Naomi O'Brien. I am currently living in Los Angeles, California, but I have also taught in Florida. I started out in Florida. I graduated from University of Central Florida with an elementary education degree, and then I taught in Denver for about 6 years, and then I came out here to California, and I just finished up a year in LAUSD. So that was my 11th year in the classroom. And then along the way, I got into creating resources just because I wasn't always finding the resources that I needed in the classroom. So I was like, I'll just make them myself. And then along that way in my journey, I wrote a couple of books just based on all of my experiences in the classroom. I've teamed up with another educator and we've put out a few books, and I've just written some of my own as well. And it's just been a really fun ride. Like, I really love the world of education and just all the different roles that I've been in, whether it's in the classroom or helping in other ways.
Yeah, I love that, and I love how you described it as a ride, like it's a journey, and I've felt
Mhm.
the same way along this. Like, never in a million years did I ever think I'd be here, like doing something like this with
Yeah.
you, and I thought I'd be teaching in a classroom forever, and it's just you follow, your heart and follow where this journey takes you, and I can definitely tell that's what you're doing, and it's really, really cool to see. And I guess a little bit you and I met through Get Your Teach On,
Mhm.
which is just an incredible network of educators that is pouring into educators like nothing that I've ever seen. I don't think. I
Yeah.
don't think you can
I
even.
feel like you have to go there to experience it and really see
And
all
just is
that's
like
happening.
wow. So, and when I joined, like you and I'm on Lead On, you're on Teach On, like very different sides, very different groups, but like when we're all there together, it's really a family atmosphere, and so
Mhm.
we haven't got a lot of chance to talk a ton, but like you just feel that connection and we support each other in whatever way we can. So that's really cool.
Sure.
Um, so we kind of go through the same list of questions for each guest. And we want to start out by just talking about who has influenced us. So in your life, maybe in your personal life and in your educational life, it may be the same person, it may be different people. Who has influenced you in your life?
I would say in my personal life, I have an uncle. He's also my godfather, and he has just been such an influential person for me. He's just someone that's always believed in me. Like, I just can remember like being a little kid, being a teen, young adult, just always believing in me, always having the best thinking about having the best assumptions about me just with like different conversations that we have, and always trusting my judgment and always pouring into me and telling me, like, you're smart, you have a good head on your shoulders, and just always telling me like, no matter what you do, he's like, I don't care what you grow up to do, but just like do it well, like be the best at that position, no matter if you are like in this lower position or in a really high, like prestigious position, like just do the best that you can. And I feel like it's something that I always strive to do. Like, I want to be the best reading teacher. I want to be the best writing teacher. Like, I want any kid that's in my classroom to be at an advantage because I'm their teacher. And I feel like just seeing the way that he lives his life and the way that he treats other people, just always with respect, always with kindness, no matter what time of day it is, no matter how inconveniencing it is to him. And that was just always a really good example to see. And then professionally, I would say my best friend Lanisha Tab is such, like, she influences me so much and inspires me so much just because she's such a creative thinker and she's such a go-getter, and it influences me to like kind of do the same thing that she's doing. Like just the way that she dreams really big and goes for stuff, it pushes me to do the same thing. And I'm like, okay, like she's doing this, I can do that too. Like I never thought that I would write a book. And she was like, we're gonna write this book and we're gonna put it out there. I'm like, what would we write a book about? But she was like, we have good experiences that people want to know about that can help other people that can then impact children. We deserve to tell this story. So we did it. We wrote a couple of books together, and
Yeah. And
um,
you
yeah,
two
that's
are just an incredible team, a duo.
yeah,
You complement each other really, really well, and so
great.
I love that. And I mean, it's just thousands of teachers across this country look to you for your guidance and your leadership, and that's why I asked you on here today because it's just when you speak, people listen, and whether what you're sharing out, people really just believe it and believe in you, and that's really cool to see. So I love that. I love you have two different people in your lives that you can look at and look to, and with very different roles, but have made you who you are today. So next question. What was maybe when you were teaching or now that that you have kind of stepped into this new role, what was a game changer or like a hack maybe for you that just made you either a better educator or just maybe a more effective educator?
Yeah, I really like this question, and I have two. So one of those hacks would be to get the kids to do the stuff that you don't want to do or you don't have time to do.
Hmm.
I have this system where I set up jobs and I will create new jobs all the time just based on something I always forget. Like I have an attendance reminder, I have a key finder, I have just like people that do stuff for me in the classroom so that I'm not the one person trying to make everything run smoothly. And it helps the kids just take ownership of the classroom, like it's effective, and it really does help me out. Like the kids take down the chairs, the kids log in their own computers, they put things away. Like you're the supply captain, you go and clean the supplies. I don't want to pick up pencils and crayons at the end of the day. So that was something that I learned early on that just helped my classroom run efficiently. And then I would say that the other, I don't know that it's a hack, but it's something that helped me like 6 years into the game that I was like, why wasn't I doing this earlier? And it's just like asking for help or setting boundaries. I feel like when I first started, I said yes to everything. I stayed super late. I came in super early and I was burning myself out doing things that while it felt expected, no one was forcing me to do it or asking me to do that. I was doing it on my own. And I saw that I was like, it's okay to step back. And I'm still viewed as a good teacher. I'm still highly effective. I'm still helping students, even when I'm not burning the candle at both ends. So starting to say no, like if I don't have time for it, I don't have time for it. And it didn't make me mean or not a team player, unprofessional. It was just, I was setting boundaries for myself. Because, if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And I'm saying no to myself too much and burning myself out. So learning how to set those boundaries and feeling good with the decision.
I love both of those. I think your first one, like kids, unfortunately, are not taught responsibilities at home as much, and so just giving those simple responsibilities not only helps you, but it really helps them as well. And then saying no, gosh, there's a lot of power in that.
Yes.
Because when you started doing that, that was a huge struggle of mine as well. And you just are a much better person. Your
Hmm.
mental health is a lot stronger when you start doing that as well. So that's awesome. I love that. So now we kind of go into, I call it the open floor. So you are a science of reading expert guru. You present on this, you have tons of content on it as well. And so reading is your thing, is your passion. And I love that. We need more of that in today's education
Yes.
world, especially from your perspective. So this is a time where I'm just kind of give you the floor, and let you share what you think our listeners need to hear when it comes to literacy and the science of reading specifically.
Yes. Thank you. So I don't know where every listener is. Like, I feel like some people will be nodding along, like, yes, I do that. Or, yes, I believe in that. Or for some people, things could be a shift, or for some people, it could be uncomfortable to hear. But I hear that there's always, these reading wars and it's balanced literacy versus structured literacy when I'm like, there shouldn't be a war at all because like if we follow the research, one is just the absolutely right way to be doing things, and the other one has been yielding poor results for decades, you know? So why wouldn't we try something new? Like at least give it a try. If you're like, no, I've been doing this for 20 years. I just worked at a school where that was a lot of the mentality of like, nope, I've been doing this. I know what I'm doing. But it was like,
Hmm.
but our scores are horrible. So if you think it's not the methods and you're just blaming kids like year after year after year, like I just would like encourage people to just try it out for like a few months and see if you notice the difference, because you should notice the difference when you make that switch. Like balanced literacy is more meaning based, while structured literacy is more code based, and that's what students need. And it's great for all students. So, my advice to get started is just to make sure that you are making sure that your instruction is explicit and also systematic. So, just really direct. We are not putting a letter in front of students and saying, what do you think this sound is? Or like, what's your guess? You are directly teaching it and making sure that you are delivering it very clearly from the start. And then also, so that's your phonics, like
Okay.
AI says A and OY says OI, and teaching them these things. But you also want to be teaching it in a systematic way, which just is a fancy way of saying that you're going to have an order for it. And there's no agreed upon scope and sequence for teaching the phonics skills. So you really could do whatever you wanted, but there is some guidance where you should be starting from the most simplest to the most complex. And it doesn't matter what grade level you're in because it's the same order, it's the same steps. Like, so if you're teaching kindergarten, they need to know A through Z. You can go into short vowels, then maybe some blends, digraphs, and then vowel teams, and so on and so forth. But same thing if you were in second grade. You're not just going to skip up to vowel teams because they're second graders. If they don't have the digraphs, or they don't have the blends, or they don't have A through Z, which that was just my experience this past year. I actually started out in TK, and the Friday before school started, they were like, "There's not enough kids. Can you teach second grade?" And I was like, but I was like, "I love kindergarten." And they were like, "Well, it's going to be like kindergarten because none of these kids know how to read." And they truly didn't. I had second graders that did not know the alphabet. They couldn't write their names. And I was like, I couldn't just be like, well, we're in second grade. We have to start here. It was like, I have to go back to the beginning. Like, you can't skip the steps no matter who you're dealing with. You have to find out where are their gaps, where are the holes, and then how can you fill it in. And then you also have to um, accompany that with phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, because those are the skills. Like, I feel like that's like the magic sauce that for a lot of years nobody was really talking about or doing. And I'm so glad that it's, I guess, popular now, because
Yeah.
I
Thanks to
accidentally,
people like
like
you.
11 years ago, I was doing this. I was so afraid of getting in trouble for not following the
Yeah.
curriculum my first year teaching. And there was a phonological awareness part. And all the veteran teachers on my team were like, oh, skip that part. It was like the blue section in our reading. They're like, we don't do that part. Just skip that part. It's a waste of time. But I
Hmm.
was so like such a rule follower. I was like, I can't skip this part. So me and it was 8 teachers. So 4 of us were new, 4 were vets, and the 4 of us were like, we have to teach this with fidelity. That's what the principal said. And our scores at the end of the year were very different. And we were like, it's that blue section that they told us to skip. And it was all these, they seemed silly, like, oh, say pig, pizza, fox. Which one started with the same sound? I was like, that seems so silly. How is that helping kids read? And it seemed like you should be getting into books, flashing sight words, to memorize. And from year one, I looked into seeing that this is a really important skill. And I remember really doing it like hardcore year two, and then realizing like this is what the magic thing is. And I would talk about it, but nobody really cared about it back then.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited that it's getting popular and that it's getting its flowers now, because it's so important. And like while the change is slow, I feel like a lot of people want to abandon it because they don't see the reading right away, but it takes time and it's changing a part of the kids' brains. Like, it's so fascinating. There is a YouTube video, and it's Stanislas Dehaene. He is this French neurologist, and his video is called "How the Brain Learns to Read." And they have scans of the brain of readers from like beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, and phonemic awareness changes the brain. Like, it actually grows a part of the brain that did not exist before you started doing these skills. So I feel like it's such cool work, and it's so empowering to tell teachers this, that like you're doing brain changing work. Like, people in society are telling us, especially in the lower grades, are like, you're just babysitting or they're just playing all day. And you're like, I'm
Absolutely.
doing brain changing work. And like So the phonemic awareness, which is changing their brain and helping their brain even have the ability to hear the sounds and then, spit them back out again as whole words, plus the phonics, like that's what's going to build your strong readers. And then I always want to make sure to say that we don't stop there. Even though phonics and phonemic awareness, like that's what they need to actually start reading, as in saying the words on the page. It doesn't stop there. And I feel like a lot of science of reading accounts that I see are only talking about phonics and phonemic awareness, but you cannot neglect fluency, vocabulary, background knowledge, and comprehension. All of that is really important too. And again, just being systematic and direct and very clear about it is what the key is. And it just takes time. Like, I think a lot of people want this magic
Mhm.
solution, or there's even pressure because this test is coming up or this assessment is coming up or report cards are coming up. But it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Like, you have to take your time and just trust the process. Like, if you're following the research and you trust the process, the reading will come in time for up to 95% of our students. And that's a really high percentage. So just trust the process. And then also start small. Like, you hear all of this information and you're like, how am I going to get good at background knowledge and vocabulary and font? Start with one thing, like get really good at one thing and then add something else later on. Don't just like be like, this is too overwhelming, I can't do it, and go back to your old practices. Swap out one thing and see how that's going, and then add in something else in a few months, and then add in something else. And then each year you can get better and better.
Gosh, I love that. That this is why you're here. This is why you're talking. Like, you are incredible. And I think our listeners just learned more from you in the last 10 minutes than probably they did 4 years of college.
Right. It's a lot. They're like, my program
Yeah,
never
I'm sure you do, like, seriously. And so, just a couple things, to follow up with that. Obviously, you are an incredible resource and you have lots of resources out there, and you can share that here in a minute. But, what do you encourage, or what resources do you encourage for educators and teachers to find? Because I think right now we're kind of in a gray area when it comes to curriculum and our textbooks that we've had for years, kind of like you went back to, for 20 years, they're not there yet. And
Right.
so educators, teachers, they're having to go out on their own, and even schools. And I was in that boat as an administrator. Like, we got to go out, we got to scrounge up some resources because we
Right.
want to do this the right way. So where do you encourage people to start at there?
I would honestly encourage people to read the research first, because what you'll find is that even if your curriculum or what you have in your classroom isn't aligned to the science of reading, when you know what to do, you can make it work for you. Like, I had leveled readers, and leveled readers in the, science of reading community is like, no, throw them out, burn them. And I was like, but when you know what to look for and you know how to use them, you can make them work for you. So I had Benchmark, which is not aligned to the science of reading at all, but I was able to take certain components and just make small tweaks. So even if your school doesn't have the curriculum or you don't have the money to go on TPT, because you still have to be able to vet these things. Like, anyone can slap a science of reading label on anything. Like, I had attended a district training and it was science of reading, and I was so excited, and they were promoting memorizing sight words, and I was like, oh my
Like, that's
goodness.
not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like, if you don't know any better, you're like, okay, great. I got this training. I'm on the right track. So I know that our time is so tight, but I would encourage, like, find a good YouTube video, check out the comments, see if anybody is like, this is what the research says. There's usually one person like trying to sound an alarm, but keep doing the research on your own so that you could create your own resources, or you can tweak the ones that are already out there. Letters is great. UFly, it's like UFLI. Like, they have a lot of great free resources. I have free resources on my website, which is readlikearockstarteaching.com, just to help you get started. But honestly, I feel like the best thing a teacher can do is just have the knowledge themselves, so that no matter what they've been given, they can have that critical eye to say, okay, I'm going to use this part, but I'm not going to use that part, or my kids need this, but they don't need that.
I love that. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
because I think that's a lot of times, they say, okay, I've got to throw everything out that I have and start fresh. And that's not the case. And as an administrator, your schools, taxpayer dollars, has spent a lot of money on what you have, and
Mhm.
it may be relatively new.
Right.
Let's see what we can use from that, instead of saying we got to start from scratch and spend, thousands and thousands of dollars
Right.
on new beginnings, and that may not be the case. So thank you for sharing that insight. So, wow, I'm impressed. You always impress me, but thank you for taking the time to just dive in deep to that. And I really encourage our listeners, if they want to know more, to reach out to you, to go to your website, because you've got it. So, as we start to wrap up, I love these two last pieces. What advice do you give to educators, whether they're a first year teacher or a 20-year veteran teacher? What advice would you give to educators right now?
I would give them the advice of to always be a learner. And I know that sounds cheesy, but there's always something new to learn. Education is
Hmm.
always changing and evolving and growing. I always think about like my husband is a nurse practitioner and the medications or the routines and techniques that they used even like a year ago may change. He's like, oh, now for dialysis, now we do this instead of this because it was causing X, Y, and Z. And there's just always something to learn and change. So even if it's just your third year, you should be doing something different and better than you were doing last year. If it's your 20th year, it shouldn't be, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this lesson for 20 years. That's a problem. Like a lot has changed. Like don't be afraid
Our
to
students
feel
have changed
yes,
so, yeah,
like keep the times to relate to them, to connect with them, be culturally responsive, and then just find better ways. There's always new research coming out. So even if you have a way, like even for me, like I consider myself like this amazing teacher. Like I've been Read Like a Rock Star since 2010, right? But I'm constantly still doing research to make sure that there isn't a better way to do something or to find a better way to do something. When the science of reading came out, I was like, oh my goodness, like what is this new thing that I don't know about? And even I was like, oh, okay, I do a lot of this, but this is new. I'm going to try this school year. And I just love getting better for my students. Like, I want my students to be at an advantage because they're in my classroom and not have missed anything. So just always be a learner and pick up something new every year and just keep adding on and getting better because our students deserve, a teacher at the top of their game that is a learner as well.
yeah, I love that. And just modeling that to your students means so much. So perfect. All right, so that was educators. And now, what advice do you give to students that could be in first grade or maybe in 12th grade, getting ready to graduate? What advice do you like to give the students?
My advice that I love to give students is to advocate for themselves and like teaching them how to advocate for themselves. Like your teacher can only do so much. So like make your needs known. If you need help, ask for it and just to really be involved in their learning so that they can know what they know, but so they can also know what they don't know and they can get the help that they need by asking for it. Like if you need more time, if you need headphones, if you need a quiet environment, if you need a lesson repeated, if you didn't understand something, like just speak up for yourself so that you can be heard and you can get the help that you need.
Yeah, well, I love that too. That one kind of gives me chills because our student they don't have that naturally. A lot of kids don't,
No.
and so hearing it from you and hearing it from their teacher just can mean so much. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you again for coming on this episode. It really means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to School Life, our sponsor. So shout out to School Life for sponsoring this. Really appreciate that. And I thank you again.
Yeah,
Anything
thank
else
you
you
for
want to
having me.
share before we get
No,
off
it
here?
was great. It was great. I loved sharing
Okay,
it. And my DMs are always open if anyone ever has any questions.
awesome.
I just love talking all things reading.
Okay. And I will see you in January, right? In Las
Yep.
Vegas, get your
See you
teach
in
on conference.
Vegas.
So already looking forward to
No,
that. Got that
yeah,
date circled.
it's going to be
So
fun.
all right. Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah.
See ya.